Cruise news time. Well, Norwegian Cruise Lines say that to get cruising restarted in the U.S., U.S. cruise passengers need to be vaccinated before they cruise. Now, on the other side of that, America's Cruise Line, Carnival Cruise Line, they don't think the same thing. Who's right? Who's wrong? And how does it impact the U.S. cruise restart? Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Lido Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news update. Well, we got an interesting debate brewing between the cruise companies when it comes to the restart of cruising in the U.S. To require vaccination or not to require vaccination, that is the question. And it all goes back to who should be making the requirement. The way we're going to approach the show today, I will show you the case that Norwegian Cruise Line made. I'll show you fresh footage from over the weekend from President Christine Duffy at Carnival Cruise Lines talking about their stance on vaccination. And then let's try to figure out who's going to require this. Will it be the government? They have an answer too. And then the thing that really impacts my thinking is I want to get to maskless cruising. To me, the thing that's going to take us back to cruising as we knew it would be maskless cruising. Which one of these approaches will get us closer? And jam-packed. April the 12th, Monday, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let me quickly invite you to subscribe. If you like staying up to date with everything that's going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these episodes. Thank you so much in advance. All right, let's go back to last week. Let's go to the Jim Cramer show where Frank Del Rio will make the case for requiring cruise passengers to be vaccinated for the restart of cruising.
All right, so Frank, I'm a little confused. I see people going to hotels or traveling in airplanes or going to the casinos or line up getting casinos. But when it comes to cruising, when it comes to the cruises, somehow the CDC says, whoa, I don't think these guys can do anything right. That's how I read it. How do you read it, and what are you doing in response?
Look, we read it the same way. It's time to get back to cruising. We have a solid plan. The plan we put out to the CDC today is comprehensive. It's robust. It has as its cornerstone, everyone on board is going to be vaccinated. Plus, we're going to incorporate all the protocols that the Healthy Safety Panel put together. So combined, it's ironclad, Jim. I don't want to say that I'm daring the CDC to do anything, but I want to hear any feedback that suggests that this is not the best way to come back and cruise again. I challenge you to tell me of another venue anywhere that has this kind of ironclad health and safety protocols in place. Not any building, not a casino, not a hotel, not a theme park, not an airplane, not your corner drugstore, not your grocery store, nowhere. Cruise ships will de facto become the safest place on Earth.
Frank's fired up. I tell you what, I do like the impassioned plea. You hear it there. He said the cornerstone to the restart of cruising is vaccinated cruisers. Cruise ships, because of the vaccinations, because of their health protocols that they put in place, will be the safest place anywhere. Compared to other travel venues, compared to other entertainment venues, and even compared to Main Street. That's what Frank is getting at. And so that's the pitch that Norwegian Cruise Line made to the CDC, that this is the way we're going to do it. This is safer than even what you're suggesting, and this is how cruising should restart. And he challenged the CDC to say that this would not be the safest way for cruising to restart. I don't know if that's also a challenge he extends to the other cruise lines, because just over the weekend, the question was put to Christine Duffy from Carnival Cruise Lines, the very same question: should cruising require a vaccine mandate for their passengers? And it's kind of caged in the context of the vaccine conversation down here in Florida, and this is where it goes.
Follow up, Christine, with just an important question. As you know, the day before your news conference, Governor Ron DeSantis was at Port Miami, and he said he did not believe that the cruise lines should be required to have their passengers give proof that they had been vaccinated before they get on board your ships. Where does Carnival stand? Will you require passengers on Carnival ships to show proof of vaccination or to be proved negative before they get on board?
We are not making those decisions as a cruise line. We do not believe that the cruise industry in the US should be treated any differently than other forms of travel, tourism, or entertainment. And so at this time, people are able to get on a plane and fly outside of the US, take a cruise, and come back into the US without requirements like a vaccine or a health passport. So our position is don't treat cruise industry differently than everyone else. We have put together a set of protocols that we believe give prevention, protection. And as I said, we've demonstrated in other parts of the world that we've been able to sail safely even before vaccines.
A couple of interesting takeaways from what Christine Duffy said there. She said, we're not making that decision as a cruise line. That would suggest that they don't believe that the cruise line should be the one that mandate a vaccine. And then she makes the broader appeal that says nobody else is being treated like this. Other forms of travel not requiring a vaccine. So why should cruise be treated any different? It's a solid argument, and it goes head to head with the argument from Frank Del Rio from Norwegian Cruise Line, who believes that cruise should be making this decision at this time. But the question is begged, if not cruise making the decision about the vaccine mandate, who should it be? Now, I would think that the cruise lines and other people would think, well, if there's going to be a requirement for a vaccine mandate, then it should come from the government. And so that's the question. Does the government intend to mandate vaccines for anything? And we have the answer to that. Let's jump over to the press room to Jen Psaki, where this very question was asked of her. And let's see what the government's position is on whether or not they will mandate a vaccine.
Is there any thought being given to a federally organized vaccine passport of some kind? Does the president see that maybe as some kind of tool that could be used, or would he lean more on the side of people who have raised objections over privacy and so on?
Well, let me be very clear on this. I know there's been lots of questions. The government is not now, nor will we be supporting a system that requires Americans to carry a credential. There will be no federal vaccinations database and no federal mandate requiring everyone to obtain a single vaccination credential. As these tools are being considered by the private and nonprofit sectors, our interest is very simple from the federal government, which is Americans' privacy and rights should be protected, and so that these systems are not used against people unfairly. There is a movement, as you know, in the private sector to identify ways that they can return to events where there are large swaths of people safely in soccer stadiums or theaters. And that's something that that's where the idea originated, and we expect that's where it will be concluded. We will be providing some guidance, which will look like an FAQ, a frequently asked question. I hate acronyms, but that provides important answers to questions that Americans have, in particular around concerns about privacy, security, or discrimination soon.
There you go. So the government will not be mandating a vaccine. They are pushing it over to the private sector. And so that would mean that the decision whether or not cruise lines require a vaccine would be the cruise line's decision. So here we are. Norwegian says that vaccine mandate the way to go. Carnival Cruise Line rejecting that idea. To be fair, Norwegian's vaccine mandate is only until October of this year, the end of October. And so it looks like it's something that they're going to revisit. But at least the push that they're making to get cruising restarted is with vaccinated passengers. You got the two arguments there. I want to move into talking about maskless cruising, but keep it in mind, the question will come at the end. What are you going to choose? Are you going to choose fully vaccinated cruising, or are you going to choose non-vaccinated cruising? I'm really interested in hearing that in the comments. But let's talk about maskless cruising. And does the vaccine conversation mean anything when it comes to maskless cruising? So one of the big questions that still lingers around the COVID vaccines are whether or not you can still spread the virus after you are fully vaccinated. The CDC themselves, they still call that an unanswered question. They're still gathering the data to understand whether the vaccine actually minimizes the spread. And so it's an interesting conversation, and it has to do with whether or not you should still wear a mask. The idea is very simple. Even if you're vaccinated, if you can still spread the virus, you should put a mask on so that you don't spread the virus. And then, but if it comes out that if you're fully vaccinated that you do not spread the virus after being fully vaccinated, then you could go maskless. And so it's interesting, the conversation when it comes to fully vaccinated versus partially vaccinated cruises. If everybody is vaccinated on a cruise ship, for example, but yet they can still spread the virus from one person to another, I think it could be argued that if everybody is vaccinated and no one is at risk from the COVID disease, that the mask is not as important. Sure, the virus is still being moved from one person to another, but if everybody that you come in contact with is vaccinated, then the risk of that virus causing somebody to be severely ill is greatly minimized. And now, if we look at a cruise where vaccine is not required, you will have a scenario where you may have some vaccinated people and where you have some people that are not vaccinated. And so the risk is there that even vaccinated people could give the virus to non-vaccinated people, and they could be negatively impacted by the COVID disease. So to me, I feel like the path to a maskless cruise is a cruise where vaccines are required. But I do believe that as cruising restarts in both scenarios, there's still going to be masking. But I think that in a scenario where vaccines aren't required, I believe that the mask requirement will exist longer. That's just my hypothesis on it based on the information that we know. And I think as this goes on, there's definitely going to have to be some sort of exemption process. There's going to have to be some sort of process for kids that aren't able to get the vaccines. But, you know, at its core, the unvaccinated person would be at the most risk. So I don't know if an exemption process involves the unvaccinated person, you know, taking full responsibility for their health, letting the cruise lines off the hook. I think all these questions are still being hashed out. But it's certainly an interesting debate. And now what I really want to know from you guys, is it going to be NCL or is it going to be Carnival? Which type of cruising would you choose? Would you choose fully vaccinated or would you choose no vaccination? All you got to do on this one, just comment NCL or Carnival or anything else that you want to talk about. Thanks for watching the show today. Hope you enjoyed it. Please show your support by obliterating that like button. Watch this video that YouTube recommends. This is Tony with Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.